worship you in this place tonight. Give you all the praise, Lord. Oh, yeah. To the one, to the Lamb, and to our King upon the throne, to the Christ, to our Savior, to the risen Son of God. Oh, blessing and honor, glory and power, salvation belongs to our God. Blessing and honor now and forever. Salvation belongs to our God. Our hope, our Redeemer, for the sacrifice you made. From our hearts to the heavens, we declare blessing and honor, glory and power. Salvation belongs to our God. Blessing and honor now and forever. Salvation belongs to our God. Blessing and honor, salvation belongs to the Lord. Blessing and honor now and forever. Salvation belongs to our God. Blessing and honor, oh, blessing and honor, oh. So holy, so worthy, so great is your name that the earth will adore you and shout out your fame. So holy, so worthy, so great is your name that the earth will adore you and shout out your fame. So holy, holy and worthy are you, Lord. Come on and lift it up. honor, glory, and power. Salvation belongs to our God. Yeah. Forever. Salvation belongs to our God. You Lord. Salvation belongs to our God. Blessing and honor now and forever. Salvation belongs to our God. Blessing and honor. Blessing and
So we're in week 3 of From the Upper Room series of our VG study, and the title of this for week 3 is Miracle on the Road to Damascus. As a warm up, there are 3 questionnaires here. Number 1, think of someone you had reservations about approaching. How did you overcome those challenges? Number 2, how do you come to believe in something? What are the steps you take to do this? And number 3, recall someone who changed your life. What was different before compared to how you live your life today? Uh, as a word for today is from Acts 1, verse 8. But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the end of the earth. You can also read Acts 9, verses 1 to 2, 22, and verse 31. When the disciples heard that Jesus promised that the Holy Spirit would empower them to preach the gospel, they probably did not expect to encounter many different kinds of people. Some were of good reputation, while others came from unexpected backgrounds. They had no idea that God would use one of the most dangerous men of their time to become instrumental in proclaiming the good news to the nations outside of Israel. Today, let us look at how God used this man named Saul to fulfill Jesus' promise to his disciples, being witnesses to the end of the earth. So, lesson 1 is Saul persecuted the church. Acts 9, verse 1 to 2 says, but Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord, went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogues at Damascus, so that if he found any belongings to the way, men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. So when he was a bit younger, Saul witnessed and approved the execution of believers. Being a Jew of the Pharisees, he was present when Stephen was stoned for speaking about Jesus. This is in Acts 7, verse 58. And went from house to house, arresting those who followed Jesus. Acts 8, verse 1 to 3. Surely this man was far from being a disciple. However, little did he know that God would eventually turn his life around in an unexpected way. How do you think you would feel if someone like Saul threatened your community of faith? definitely I'll be a bit angry. I'll be a bit pissed. It comes natural, right? I mean, there will be a sense of fear, a sense of bitterness, a sense of anger. That's what. That's how we deal with threats to our lives. That's normal, right? Lesson two: Saul encountered Jesus miraculously. In Acts 9, verses 3 to 5, now as he went on his way, he approached Damascus, and suddenly a light from heaven shone around him. And falling to the ground, he heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And he said, Who are you, Lord? He said, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. So one day when Paul was approaching the city of Damascus, Saul encountered Jesus for the first time. Jesus called Saul by name and made his name known. When Saul was given instructions from Jesus, he became blind and lost his strength for a few days. God used Ananias to help Saul regain his sight, and he filled uh, and be filled with the Holy Spirit. As Ananias prayed for Saul, he was miraculously miraculously healed, both physically and spiritually. What do you think would have happened if Ananias remained hesitant about visiting and praying for Saul to be healed in an alternative reality? Saul would have continued in his blindness, and in that blindness might have been bitter or worse, angrier. And but that was not the case. God spoke to Ananias, and somehow the Holy Spirit filled him up and made him uh, he forgave Saul for everything he's done, and that resulted in Saul being healed of his blindness, and Saul being uh, one of the best evangelists of their time. Number three, Saul was sent as an apostle to the Gentiles. In Acts 9, verses 15 to 16, but the Lord said to him, Go, for he is a chosen instrument of mine to carry my name before the Gentiles and kings and the children of Israel. For I will show you how much you must suffer for the sake of my name. So after Saul regained his sight, he was baptized, strengthened, and began proclaiming Jesus to others. From a persecutor to a preacher, Saul became known as Paul, uh, as a preacher of Christ's gospel. While some believers doubted his transformation at first, much like every one of us at first, his testimony of his encounter with Christ on the road to Damascus is a powerful reminder that God could change the hardest of hearts. Obviously, right? If you were Paul, how would you feel preaching the very message you initially oppose? That would be awkward in my part, actually. But God made it so that Paul was used mightily to spread his gospel, to spread his message throughout the Gentile world, because Paul was a Roman citizen. He could travel anywhere. And that's the power of the Holy Spirit. Paul was a fulfillment of God's promise in Acts 1, verse 8, and he became instrumental in spreading the gospel to the Gentiles in key places such as Greece and Rome. There was peace and continued growth in the church because God stepped in and worked a miracle in Paul's life, as seen in Acts 9:31. Today, Paul continues to speak to us about God's love through his epistles and letters of encouragement in the Bible. Yeah, Paul was used mightily up to this day and in the days to come. For our application, number one, why do you think God chose a persecutor instead of a righteous believer to bring the gospel to both Jews and Greeks? Why do you think God chose you to hear and respond to his gospel? Number two, was there a time when you persecuted someone for their faith? How did God correct you from this? How are we to respond to persecution today? And number three, is God leading you to be a blessing to someone you have reservations with? Ask God to remove any doubts and prejudice as you demonstrate his love to them this week. For our prayer, we thank God that nothing is impossible for him, that he is able to transform and use challenging people to make his name known. Pray that God would use you to be a good encouragement instead of bitterness and pride. Ask God for the grace to demonstrate his love to the people around you, even when they are difficult to approach. And number three, pray for someone who have a difficult time engaging with, but needs to hear the gospel. Pray that God would use you as his channel of blessing to that person in the following days. Thank you. That's it for today. God bless.
Father of creation, unfold your sovereign plan. Raise up a chosen generation that will march through the land. All of creation is longing for your unveiling of power. Would you release your anointing? Oh God, let this be the hour. Let your glory fall in this room. Let it go forth from here to the nations. Let your fragrance rest in this place as we gather to seek your face. Ruler of the nation, the world has yet to see the full release of your promise. The church in victory, turn to us, Lord, and touch us. Make us strong in your might. Overcome our weakness, that we could stand up and fight. Let your glory fall in this room. Let it go forth from here to the nations. Let your glory fall in this room. Let it go forth from here to the nations. Let your fragrance rest in this place as we gather to seek your face. We are gathered to seek